According to the zoo records, Punch was abandoned by his mother immediately at birth.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's tragic. So he had to be hand-raised by human zookeepers. But the specific ignition point for his virality, the moment in February 2026 where his metrics just absolutely exploded across every digital platform on Earth.
A breakout moment.
Right, the breakout. It was just unedited, raw footage of him clinging to a stuffed orangutan toy.
Just holding a toy for dear life.
Exactly. He was this rejected, deeply fearful infant using an inanimate object as a surrogate mother to just regulate his nervous system.
Wow.
There were no public relations firms engineering this moment. It was a purely biological response captured on a standard, basic camera. And today, he is slowly integrating with a real troop of baby playmates, and millions of people are watching that unscripted survival story unfold live.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I don't want anyone thinking this is just a list of cute animal facts.
No, definitely not.
We are deconstructing the mechanics of global attention. I want to aggressively compare Punch to the titans. And I want to start with the biggest, most impenetrable titan of them all.
Bring him out.
Let's talk about King Kong.
Ah, the king.
The king of Skull Island. Because if you want to talk about scale and legacy, Kong is the cinematic behemoth that literally laid the foundation for the modern blockbuster. He climbed the Empire State Building.
The historical footprint of King Kong is just staggering. I mean, the original 1933 film, directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack, it didn't just introduce a character. It introduced an entirely new paradigm of visual storytelling.
It was revolutionary.
Completely. Willis O'Brien's stop-motion animation armature was this technological marvel that allowed audiences to project their anxieties onto a towering, unstoppable force.
And he stayed relevant forever.
Right. Kong has anchored 7 major theatrical films across 9 decades. He navigated the leap from black and white to color. He was the centerpiece of Peter Jackson's sprawling 2005 3-hour historical epic.
It's a massive movie.
So massive. And now he is currently the billion-dollar anchor of the modern digital MonsterVerse franchise.
He is the apex predator of pop culture.
Yeah.
When you think of pure, unbridled spectacle, you think of a colossal ape swatting biplanes out of the sky while standing on top of a skyscraper.
Yeah, it's the ultimate image.
But here is where I want to push back on the concept of legacy in this debate.
Okay, let's hear it.
King Kong is fundamentally a product of hyper-reality. He is a massive, terrifying fiction.
Sure.
He requires literally hundreds of millions of dollars in rendering farms, massive marketing campaigns, and global theatrical distribution just to force us to feel something.
Right, it's a manufactured feeling.
Exactly. And then you look at Punch. Punch is 2 kilograms of actual flesh and blood, and he commanded the exact same level of global attention by simply holding a stuffed toy.
It's wild.
It's like comparing a skyscraper to a pebble. How does a biological pebble compete with a fictional skyscraper?
Well, you're hitting on a massive shift in media consumption and psychological resonance here.
Okay, break that down for me.
To understand Kong, you really have to look at the cultural environment of 1933. The world was deep in the Great Depression. The public craved macro spectacle.
It needed an escape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They needed an external, larger-than-life myth to distract from the grinding, microscopic miseries of their daily economic reality.
So Kong was a distraction.
Kong represented the uncontrollable forces of nature and industry colliding. The mechanics of his fame were entirely built on manufacturing awe through sheer, overwhelming scale.
But awe is a powerful emotion. Kong makes us feel small in a way that feels almost religious, you know? When you look up at a 100-foot monster on an IMAX screen, you are experiencing this simulated sublime. Are you telling me that a tiny baby monkey on a TikTok feed provides a more potent psychological experience than that?
Potent, yes, but it's operating through a completely inverted mechanism.
How so?
Kong relies on an aggressive, outward-facing spectacle. The filmmakers spend thousands of rendering hours to create an illusion of invincibility that is ultimately brought down by human hubris.
Right.
Punch's resonance is entirely inward-facing. When people encountered that footage in February 2026, the virality wasn't driven by awe, it was driven by the Kenshin Schema effect.
The baby schema.
Yes, the baby schema.
Yeah.
This is a literal evolutionary biological hack. When human beings see extreme vulnerability, oversized eyes, and desperate clinging behaviors, it actually bypasses our prefrontal cortex and triggers the mammalian caregiving centers in the amygdala.
Wait, really? So we aren't choosing to love Punch. We are biologically programmed to obsess over him.
Precisely. It's hardwired, and if we look at the modern digital landscape, the context has completely flipped since 1933.
Because we have spectacle everywhere now.
Exactly. Today, we are completely saturated with macro spectacle. CGI is ubiquitous and it's cheap. We see cities destroyed in movies every single weekend.
It's almost boring now.
Right, the simulated sublime has lost its novelty. What is actually rare in a hyper-manufactured digital environment is unadulterated, low-friction authenticity.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Punch doesn't need to roar at an airplane because his silent, terrified grip on a dusty plushie provides an emotional grounding that $1 billion of CGI simply cannot render.
I have to admit, the emotional efficiency is wild. I mean, Kong falls off the Empire State Building, the music swells, and we feel a cinematic twinge of sadness before we throw away our popcorn and go home.
Right, it's fleeting.
But Punch simply looks at a zookeeper's camera while refusing to let go of his toy. And there are millions of people who would willingly restructure their entire lives to ensure his safety.
They would take a bullet for him.
They really would.
Yep.
It's the difference between entertained detachment and visceral investment.
It is the triumph of the micro-narrative over the macro myth. You know, we used to look up at the screen to feel something. Now we look down at our phones to nurture something.
That is profound. But, okay, if we're talking about outsized impact, we can't just limit ourselves to fiction.
No, we can't.
Because if there is a modern myth that rivals Kong, it's a primate who wasn't built in a computer. He was entirely real, and his story absolutely fractured the internet.